start with the application layer. The application layer is responsible for providing services to the users. What we are trying to say here basically is, let's say you are using Outlook to compose your message. The Outlook application is going to provide an interface where you are going to write your message, where you are going to specify the intended recipient of your email, as well as where you are going to specify any files which you want to attach to your email. That is the role that the application layer plays. It offers services to the users. After the message has been composed, it has to be formatted in a way which the computer is going to understand. Just like when we are writing a letter. For example, let's say we are writing a letter of application. It has to be written in such a way that the person reading it will understand that this is an application letter. The composed message will have to be presented in a way that is accepted by the networking devices. That is where the presentation layer comes in. The presentation layer is responsible for converting the data into a generic format for network transmission. For example, for the message that we are sending, we need to encrypt it. That is, as it is transmitted, no one should be able to access it and read. Only the intended recipient should receive this message. Therefore, issues of encryption is handled at the presentation layer. In addition, the data being transmitted will need to be compressed to reduce its size for transmission purposes. Compression issues is also handled at the presentation layer. After the data has been presented in an accepted format, we now need to establish the communication between the applications. In other words, we need to establish a session, that is a duration of time which the applications are going to communicate. This is handled by the session layer. The session layer is responsible for initiating a session, that is allowing two applications to start the communication, maintaining that communication, and when the communication has been completed, to terminate the sessions. After establishing the session, we are now ready to transmit our data. The data that we want to send will not be sent as a whole because that will be a lot of data to transmit at the same time. What we are now going to do is we are going to cut that data into small pieces, and these pieces are known as packets. The reason for cutting the data into packets is so that we can transmit one packet at a time. This has a number of advantages. The first advantage is that two computers are not going to hold on to the internet for a long time. Remember, the internet is a shared resource. Therefore, each computer should be given a chance to transmit data. Since we are sending one packet at a time, this is going to allow as many computers to share the resource as possible. The cutting of data is done at the transportation layer. Once the data has been cut into packets, the next thing we are concerned with is how is the data going to move across the network. Details of how a packet is going to move across a network is handled by the network layer. The network layer is responsible for the following. 1. It is responsible for deciding how to route transmission between the computers. That is, deciding the actual path which the message is going to take across the internet. The second one is it is responsible for handling packet switching. The third responsibility of the network layer is to handle network congestion. That is, deciding the path which the packet will take which is less congested. Once the network layer has handled the transmission details across the network, we are now concerned with how the data will move across the physical transmission media that we have. The different transmission media that we have include optic fiber, copper wire, radio frequency, just to mention a few. The data link layer is responsible for handling the transmission details across the different media which we've just mentioned. The packet will have to be formatted in a way which will be understood by the transmission medium. For example, on the optic fiber network, the data has to be formatted in such a way which will be understood by the optic fiber, which is our transmission media. If we are using the copper wire, the data will have to be formatted in such a way which will be understood by the copper wire. Once these details are specified, we are now ready to transmit the data, and this is done at the physical layer. At the physical layer, the data is now converted into a form of energy for transmission across the physical media. For example, if we are using optic fiber, the data will be converted into light energy for transmission. If we are using copper wire, the data will be converted into electric energy for transmission. This completes the activities which are done on the sending computer when we are trying to send a message. On the receiving computer, the activities are repeated, but this time they are done in reverse. Thanks for watching. This is where the video ends.